On that topic, a good one to talk about with memory would be For a Dog. Do you mind starting with that one?
Sure, absolutely. And you are correct that this is a poem that is freighted with memory. So, for a dog, you'd wake us up, that shrill, insistent bark, driving away whatever dreams had fogged our vision. And we'd rise in the true dark, wondering just what exactly, cataloged by canine instinct under threat, was there. What jogger, cat, or dog it was that dogged you from your drowse beside the easy chair and summoned your yapped pandemonium. 9 times in 10, it was just empty air, some ghosted scent you sniffed. Dumb. You're dumb, like all dogs, snuffling up to snakes, afraid of mice. When we said, come, you wouldn't come. You capered when commanded to play dead, and when we wanted most to be alone, you'd offer up that imbecilic head until we crowned your pity with a bone. Our lives took on the shape you spun from need, the harried rondure of routine. You gone, the house is quieter, and we've been freed forever from the never-ending chores your tale entailed. The scrubbing where you peed, the hunting stain removers down in stores. What's hardest are the peaceful hours we wanted so much, when you were scratching up the doors and howling at some phantom thing that haunted the world without, some threat we couldn't see that you were desperate to have confronted. Now, you're part of that present unity of absences the living move among, in which what was, what will, and what can't be dance in a ring to a triumphant song we don't have ears to hear or heart to see, who sleep now perfectly and much too long.
Great, thank you. Yeah, a lot of your poems have this idea that we're not living in this kind of like fresh, clean world where if that makes sense, is everything is kind of you know reset, and only the people who are here, and we're not unburdened by what has been, and so yeah. So there are these presences, whether they be historical memory, the actual just the effects of the past on us, the effects of our parents, people who came before, or even maybe like actual spiritual presences, in some cases. Um, and but what strikes me, and this is one of your poems that I've read a few times over the years. This idea at the end of in which what was, what will, and what can't be dance in a ring to a triumphant song we don't have ears to hear or heart to see. And what's striking to me about that is, specifically in the case of animals that don't have immortal souls, what is their part in reality over time, even after they're gone? When you talk about what was, what will, and what can't be, I also think about how everything is present to God. Obviously, this is a theme in Augustine too, right? And so even these creatures that don't have immortal souls are still present to him. There's still kind of a reality that is of lasting relevance. They're a part of the world story, but they're also ever present to God. Is that something that you think about in terms of? I hadn't thought about this before, but the specifically the world of purely mortal creatures and things that really do pass away definitively in a sense, and yet that there's still some eternal significance to them.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. There is no death in a certain sense. because every being changes, right? Nothing can be completely erased.
Mm.
Whether it's just a memory living on as opposed to the immortal soul and the communion of saints, even if it's just that memory never goes away. That being, the influence of that being on someone's lives, on many people's lives,
Mm.
never goes away, and it ripples out. Um, so, yeah, and I think so much in this particular poem is about escaping the conscious mind, escaping the ego that so often wants to build a replica of the world and mistake that replica for the world itself. It's easy for us to think that our understanding of the world is the world, but it's important to remember that's not the case. And very often it is the inconvenience that is the opportunity for grace and for discovery. It's the
Mm.
thing that annoys us that is an opportunity for us to step outside our habitual thoughts and see things afresh. And creatures are very good at affording those opportunities
Yeah.
for, I think, discoveries of grace, and certainly for learning patience. Anyone who's had a dog probably has learned a lot of patience, or else has gone insane. Uh, that
Mm.
would be my guess.
Okay, well, as we discuss, I'm sort of rearranging the poems into a different order than I originally planned on based on where we go in the conversation. So, on that note, would you mind reading The Problem? This is the
Sure.
last poem in the book.
Yeah. The poem is, uh, in genre, it's a propempticon, which is a poem for one going on a journey. The most famous propempticon from antiquity is Horace's Ode 1-3, which happens to be dedicated to his friend Virgil. So we're just looping around here with Virgil, apparently.
Hmm.
In any case, so it blends the genre of the propempticon, the poem for someone going on a journey, with a genre called the preamel, which is in antiquity is most famous in its iteration of Sappho, that Sappho wrote, where she's saying, some people like riding horses, some people like war, some people like this. What I like is love. Right? So it's blending these ancient genres. It has the rhyme scheme of a sonnet, but it has very long lines of
Hmm.
the length that you might see in somebody like Walt Whitman. And there are several poems like that in this book, which I, with a joke at my own expense, I think, playfully call Will sonnets. Get it? Wilson
Yeah, yeah.
sonnets. Wilson. Yeah, it's terrible. It's brutal. I know. It's awful. But the origin of this form is actually in the French Catholic poet Paul Claudel. And maybe I should also, as a preface, note that the poem is for one of my dearest friends who, some years ago, shortly after he and his wife welcomed their second daughter, it was discovered he had a brain tumor and chronic heart failure.
Hmm.
And then there were tumors discovered all over his body.
Wow.
And they were, to use what apparently medicos say, they were hot or appeared to be hot. And so we did not think that he had a long time. So I wrote this poem for him, The Problem. Some grouse. Some rattle ice in stormy cocktails. Some read or stare into their hands' artificial glow. The good-natured, whom no one likes, make conversation. Kids kick seat backs. Babies scream. This is the part where you find out exactly who you are, as much as you will ever know. Crammed like seeds into this invaluable lemon with all the dreamed escapes you cannot help but dream. There's something wrong, some unspecified glitch. But nobody will say just what it is, keeping you stranded among strangers here on the hot tarmac, waiting for some pronouncement, some true words that will explain your prolonged absences from the air above the clouds, from flight, from the oceanfront destination everyone's anticipating. It will not last forever, your time on the ground. At some point, there will come a departure. Then, clouded skies will recede, like sunshine, like questions, like your toddler's sticky touch. And you will be wholly invisible to the earthlings you love, who love you. An arrow shot by some blind archer beyond the endless traffic and grocery store pharmacy lines, long-distance calls, and doctors wincing thoughtlessly. For now, take solace in the presence of the known world's flawed, forgettable, flightless things. Bless the engine's troubled heart, the brief and inexplicably beautiful problem with the wings.